I wanted to jump in today because one of the most crucial steps to us healing from being in toxic relationships, toxic environments, toxic cycles, narcissistic and emotionally abusive spaces, places, relationships, parent dynamics, family dynamics, children dynamics, sibling dynamics, all of the dynamics. There is a crucial step in us being able to move forward from that, and that is by navigating the loss, the heartache. There is a profound sense of grief for what could have been, should have been, what our vision was of all of those promises, all of those societal conditioning of traditional roles of where the mum and the dad should be, the primary caregiver and the lover and the giving you all of that nurturing and basic needs that children need. Then the spaces of when you're in a relationship, in a toxic relationship, all of the broken promises and dreams that you were building together that just gave you this intense dopamine hit in your brain. Your brain is forever searching for that huge hit, and this is why it's likened to being in an addiction space and weaning off an addiction analogy of when we're recovering from toxic, narcissistic and emotional abuse. Our body is aching for it. And being that our body is no longer getting these intense dopamine hits, serotonin hits, all of the feel-good hormone hits that are actually what is released in our brain and into the receptors of, oh, look at that feels good, like having a sugar high. This is what we get from these people that have been toxic in our life, right? And so not only then do we have that profound sense of grief, it is then compounded because we are no longer receiving that high chemical hit into our body, right? So this is why it's really tricky with the trauma bond space as well, because again, dual compounding effect that happens here is that not only is our body aching for this person and attached to this person, that they are the only person that can give us the feel-good feels, the dreams, the promises that are all attached to this person. The compounding effect of this is that our body physically needs to see this person, read text from this person, hear phone calls from this person, hear their voice, be in their presence, be it good, bad, or ugly, because it releases the dopamine, the serotonin, the feel-good hormones into the receptors into our brain, and it literally just goes. This is why it is so hard to step out of these spaces. This is why it's so tricky to recover. This is why we go back. This is why we will always vie for our parents' attention. Because, yes, logically, we know the right and the wrong and the good cop and the bad cop, or the black angel and the white angel, or the monkey on our back, whatever we want to call it. But we still go do it. And the reason why we still go do it is because we're chasing the hit. We're chasing the high in our body, because then our nervous system feels better from that high as well. And this is why it is so tricky to break these spaces. So the grief of walking away from these spaces includes your body then grieving this chemical as well. So there is such a compounded effect of how and why it is so tricky to navigate space, life, after the trauma of narcissistic and emotional abuse, or navigate the trauma that's within your body after narcissistic and emotional abuse. So, your heart is aching for it. Your inner child is aching for it. Your body is just going, I just want this hit. I just want this chemical hit, this dopamine, serotonin hit. And that is why they go on about find these new sources. But I tell you right now, another reason why those are so tricky to navigate too is because those sources don't give you that intense hit that feel-good feeling gives you, that dopamine hit gives you. Because what happens when we have attached ourselves so much to these people, these toxic people, is that our body just goes, literally overloads, and it's like it saturates the layer of receptors in your brain. And go Google this because it is absolutely neuroscience backed. Is that it saturates that space in your brain where you can't think straight, where it's just giddy, you know, like the honeymoon period. You're getting intense chemical releases. So then our body wants it more, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So part of navigating out of these spaces, and is really crucial in it, is grieving that, is knowing that then your body is going to go through this grieving period. You're going to go through this grieving period that person is no longer in your life. And it's even trickier, and I know I'm saying a lot of tricky spaces right now. It's trickier to grieve someone that's actually living, that's actually there, that could, if they truly wanted to, actually be a good person, actually turn themselves around and be these things that they, for a glimpse, you saw. So it's in grieving those things too, grieving the potential that you saw in that person for what they could be, seeing those small glimpses of elements and character traits and behaviors and words. It's like, but I've seen it. I know you've got it in you. But they only have it for those minute little moments. So again, it's still not enough for a lifetime. So we've got to grieve those things. Be kind to yourself. Know that when you are in that craving space, to take the time to nourish yourself. And what I mean by nourish yourself is rest, sleep, have moments without people, recharge yourself. Not necessarily go and fill your space with more things to do and more people around you, because that is what we tend to do. And I can feel all of you going, yep, I do that. I used to do it too. It's really about taking the time to maybe hibernate a little bit. Take the time to go within to then come back out stronger. Sometimes we need to slow down to speed back up. That old little saying. And then when you emerge from this space, knowing that they won't be what you wanted them to be, knowing that they can't actually fulfill everything that they said that they wanted to or could, they actually can't fulfill that quota, not you. Even though you've willed them and wanted them and overcompensated for them to be doing those things, they actually didn't fill that quota. They actually didn't fill that space that they said that they would. So it's really about discerning and stepping back and seeing how empty that space actually is and how much you are filling that space with yourself and leaving your space empty. It's grieving that too. Grieving that space that you've been trying to fill, but you've only been filling it with you. So now it's time to fill your space back up with you and allow that space to be empty and over where it needs to be with that person, because that's not your responsibility to fill that space. We were talking about grieving what could have been and how intensely that ache in our heart can feel in those spaces, the longing, the just wanting. And when you do emerge and you are ready to then come back to self and be like, nope, I've got this. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to let go of that space. And it's like, but how? What do I do? You come to Toxic Release Bootcamp is what you do. You come see Cass and you get the kiss of Cass, the magic of Cass come all around you and envelope you as you're emerging into this new space of the letting go, the shedding of these toxic conditions, the shedding of those feelings, the shedding of the grief, the shedding of the loss, the shedding of wanting those things to be what they never were going to be, the shedding of their empty cup that they could never actually fill for themselves, let alone for you. And then the refilling of your own, the creating your own space to be what you want it to be. You stepping out to be fully empowered in everything that you've wanted to always do for you. Now is that time.